Okay, and another interesting shootout. On the left, we've got a Surface Pro 9 with a SQ3 processor, ARM-based processor, and 8GB of RAM. And on the right, we've got its brethren, which is a Surface Pro X with an SQ1 processor, ARM processor, and also 8GB of RAM. So similar spec, but the Surface Pro X a few years older. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on. There's been massive progress with Windows on ARM since the SQ was released, since the SQ1 on the Surface Pro X was released, and that should be reflected in its performance today. But I think we know what the winner is going to be, the Surface Pro 9 on the left, but it's going to be an interesting shootout nevertheless to see just how well the older Surface Pro X does today. First reading I give you will be percentage of processing power for the Surface Pro 9 on the left, and then I'll give you the same percentage, but this time from the Surface Pro X on the right. Now it's percentage of processing power as defined by the app itself. So ImageLine, who are makers of FL Studio, in their wisdom, have this gauge so that users can get an idea of how much processing power is being used by different songs that they have in play. So we're using it for a slightly different purpose. It's not particularly scientific, but I think it's quite useful anyway. Anyway, without, I'm starting to babble. Let's get stuck in. So off the gates, we've got 15% on the left versus 15% on the right. So even Stevens at this point. 20% on the left against 22% on the right. Just dropped down to 18 as I said it. 16 on the left, 17 on the right. 20 on the left, 21 on the right. So pretty much even Stevens, which is interesting, given that the Surface Pro 9 has the later SQ3 processor. Anyway, let's keep going. It does sort of ramp up a little bit as the song ramps up. 16% on the left, 19% on the right, so the Surface Pro X working slightly harder now. 17% versus 17%, so even Stevens at this point. We're now moving into the faster section, which requires a bit more processing. So should see the percentages rise a little bit. Currently 21 on the left versus 20 on the right. 21 is just as I said that. 15 against 14 on the right. 15 is as I said it. 15 versus 14. 16 versus 16. So very much even Stevens, which is interesting and is testament to how good a job they have done for Windows on ARM. Because this is significantly better. In fact, when the Surface Pro X first came out, it wouldn't run FL Studio because the emulation just wasn't there. So this is very interesting. Let's see where we are now. 51% versus 74%. So that's probably more what I expected. The SQ1 chip having to work a bit harder. 51% versus 70%. 46% versus 67%. So yeah, that was interesting when it started off. Very much even Stevens, but as more processing was required, the SQ1 chip has had to work harder in the Surface Pro X. 47% versus 69% now. That's probably more what I would have expected. I was a little bit surprised when this test got so as far as it did, with them being, as I say, even Stevens. 37 now versus 48, so they're calming down now, the music calming down at this point. This is one of the demo songs from that comes with FL Studio from 9 Loops called Keep It Simple, which dates back to 2015. Anyway, let's call it a day there. I think we can see what the scores on the doors are. Impressed by how well the Surface Pro X is performing. You can pick up the Surface Pro X considerably cheaper than the Surface Pro 9, and indeed you can pick up the Surface Pro 9 considerably cheaper than the Surface Pro 11, which is tested elsewhere. Anyway, let's call it a day. Thanks very much for your time. Hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, give it a like. If you want to see more videos like this, then subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.